This is a space to share and discuss educational topics with guests who have a passion for teaching and an interest in learning. Hi, my name is Gina Gillen, and I want to welcome you to Coffee Talk by CertiProf. In this episode, we're going to talk about cultural change towards agility, how to adopt it, and some reasons why Agile implementations fail so often. Today, we have the pleasure of talking to Dr. York Rössler again. As you may know, he is a Scrum trainer, university professor, Agile practices consultant, and a recurrent guest to our Coffee Talks. I welcome you to watch our past episodes with Dr. York on the Scrum Guide 2020 changes. Hi, Dr. York. How are you?
Hey, Gina. Thank you so much for having me. It's a great pleasure to join you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having time to spend with us once again. So,
Thanks.
Dr. York, how can an organization adopt an Agile mindset and an Agile culture?
Okay. My point of view, and I guess my point of view might not be the point of view that everybody has on this issue. I've heard repeatedly opinions that are very different from mine, but nevertheless, I would like to express my opinion here. I think change towards a more agile culture is mostly a top-down process. Okay. It's not on the bottom-up process, it's a top-down process. So it starts with top management and goes down towards the employees. Okay. I would like to give you an example of cultural change. Okay. I used to work for Mercedes-Benz, and there's an example that even was quoted repeatedly in the press that I found really interesting. When I was working there, they had a change in the CEO. Okay. And they entered the new CEO. His name was Dr. Zetsche. He just resigned a couple of, I think a year ago or so, but he used to be for many years the CEO of Mercedes-Benz. And when he entered the company, or when he entered as a CEO, there was an elevator that took him to his office. And that elevator had a key. And with that key, you could lock the elevator completely, okay? So that no other employee could get into the elevator when the CEO is in the elevator, so that the CEO never would meet any employee on his way to his office. Okay? I think one of the first things that Dr. Zetsche did is he removed that key from the elevator. That is an extremely small act, but it was sending a very, very powerful message. Okay, so I think it starts always with leadership, and then it goes down. It's a top-down process and not a bottom-up process. Okay, leaders, presidents of companies, board members need to participate in agile change. Okay. And there's another factor, I think, that is extremely important when it comes to change to a more agile culture. And that is how to learn it. Let me ask you a question. Gina, how did you learn some of the most important things in life? How did you learn your mother tongue? How did you learn to use fork and knife? How did you learn social interaction with other people? Did you go to school for that, or did you take a course for that? Or how did you learn it?
No, I just learned it by example, by just seeing it.
Exactly. You were basically copying the behavior of your parents, okay, or of your family members. And this is one of the most powerful ways how we can learn something. So what I try to stress here is, when you want true change, you need leadership by example. I've seen in many companies marketing campaigns to promote certain things such as agility, but also other behaviors. And they are doing things like painting, for example, the values of the company on the wall in the lobby of the company at the entrance. The most funny thing I've ever seen is when I was entering the bathroom of a company. Above the urinals, they had signs with a vision and mission statement of the company. Okay, or they had floor mats with slogans and logos on them, and they tried to promote cultural change in that way. It doesn't work. Or they had new screensavers or something like that. All that doesn't work. You can't change culture by putting slogans or values or something on the wall. You need somebody who's living that culture. So that's leadership by example. And the example that I just mentioned of Dr. Tzeche, I think this is a very good example for both. It's top-down change and it's leadership by example, by action, because action is always a lot more important than just statements. Yeah.
I completely agree with that. I remember seeing one of these memes that you see when you're scrolling on LinkedIn on what's the difference between a boss and a leader. And the difference is that the leader is working with you, is leading by example. The boss is just giving you orders. So who do you think the employees are going to feel more comfortable following? A person that is actually working with them towards the same goal, or a person who's just giving you orders? So I completely agree with you.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
really, I was just mentioning it's a top-down process. So maybe that sounds like employees don't have a role in that. Of course they do. I mean, if you're a team member, of course you can play an active role in change. You can contribute to change with your own behavior. You can question yourself. Am I working in the right way? How's my behavior? How's my mindset? Am I open to change, or am I resisting? Am I part of the change, or am I opposing change? I think these are questions that you can ask yourself. Okay, so I still think it's a top-down process, but of course it requires the contribution of everybody in the company.
I completely agree with that. Thank you so much. So why do Agile implementations fail so often?
Okay, I think there are a couple of reasons. Let me give you a whole list of things that I think that makes agility fail. Okay, this list is not something that I got from a book. These are just personal experiences that I gathered in change projects in the past. So they might not apply to everybody, but I identified them for me personally as key factors that make agility fail. Okay. So the first thing is that people think that they can implement agility in a waterfall process. And I've seen that repeatedly. People showing me a Gantt chart and telling me by March 2024, we will be agile. And I have a diagram here and we have put everything in Microsoft Project. And now we're in phase 1, then we go to phase 2. And after phase 5, we're agile. Okay.
Yes.
So this is kind of ridiculous. It's like if two people say, one person says, I want to drink less alcohol, and the other one says, oh yeah, let's bring a toast to that and have a beer on that. A great idea. Okay, it's just weird. Okay, there's one quote from Mahatma Gandhi that I really like. Be the change that you want to see for this world. So you cannot ask for change towards agility and implement it in a waterfall process. Okay, that's just impossible. So, I mean, if you want to become agile, just consider the fact that on this road is not completely predictable, and that sometimes you will have to go another way that you initially thought that you have to take. Okay. So be agile also in implementing agile. Okay. This would be one thing. Another thing that goes hand in hand with what I just said is that people think that there's an end date for being agile. So, people say in 2024, we are agile, and then it's done. Okay, I think agility is a never-ending process. It's questioning yourself permanently, questioning the organization. It's about Kaizen. Okay, it's about continuous improvement, going step by step. But you cannot say now it's done. Now we are agile, and before we haven't been agile. I think that thing doesn't exist. Okay. I think another thing is that organizations rush too much. Okay. There's a book that's very famous. It's called The Age of Agile. Probably well known. And then the author describes several agile change processes in different companies. And he mentions an agile change process that happened in Microsoft. And if I remember it well, he's stating that to become agile more or less on a team level, Microsoft took 7 years. So I think a lot of companies think becoming agile is a thing of 1 or 2 months. We're doing one workshop, we train everybody, then we're agile. Okay, so it's a long road that you have to go down, and you need to be persistent. You need to be patient. It's not a quick thing. Yeah. Another reason for failure is that goes a little bit hand in hand with what I mentioned previously, that it's a top-down process. Some companies think that they can become agile by hiring people who are maybe living already an agile culture. Okay, let me give you an example. A client of mine is a little bit agile, but not too agile, and they tried to attract more people who were right out of university and tried to get their first job. And these people, sometimes when they were making internships during their studies, they were working in companies that already adopted Agile, and they got exposed their first time to an Agile way of work, and they liked it. And then when they graduated, they were looking specifically for an employer that could offer them an environment that is agile, because they would like to keep on working in that way. And now this employer said, yeah, we are super agile. Okay, so don't worry, come to us. And here you will find exactly that environment that you're looking for. Well, people signed the contract, and after a couple of months, of course, they encountered that the company is not that agile as they thought. The idea of the company was, if we hire the right people that come here with a certain mindset, with certain experience in Agile, we will become agile in a bottom-up process.
Yeah.
Yeah. By hiring the new people that are more agile, we will become agile. Of course, that doesn't work, because after 1 or 2 years, these people simply leave the company because they're fed up with the company culture, and they look for another company that is really living the values that they are looking for. Okay, so that's again a thing. It's not a bottom up; it's a top down process. Yeah. I think there's another thing that is very important. You should have a reason to become agile. Okay. Sometimes companies tell you, we want to become agile, and you ask them why, and the answer is because everybody does, because our competitors are agile as well. And there's no reason. Okay. So I think you should have a clear objective for agility. For example, our cycle times are too long. Our workforce is demotivated. Our customer satisfaction is super low. Our competitors are much faster than us and are building better products that are better meeting customer expectations, and so on. I think these are justified reasons to become agile. But just becoming agile because it's a trend, it's a fashion thing at the moment because everybody's agile. This is not a good reason to become agile. Okay. Another factor that I encountered a lot is simply copying other companies. And there's one specific model that I would like to mention. I've heard it so many times. People are talking about the Spotify model. Okay. So they heard about the Spotify model. Okay. And they say, we need to copy exactly the Spotify model. And then we are as agile as Spotify. Okay. And I once heard a talk of a former Spotify agile coach. And this guy said something super interesting. He said, Spotify is not agile because they are using the Spotify model. They developed the Spotify model because their culture is genuinely agile. Okay. So probably Spotify today is working with other approaches that are not anymore the Spotify model. Because they developed something different, my point here is you cannot copy just the result of a process from another company and think you will adopt the same identity and culture as this company. So Spotify came to the Spotify model because they are agile, and you might get to something very different if you're agile, but you can't copy the Spotify model and think you're becoming as agile as Spotify is. Yeah. And the last thing I would like to mention, the which for me is one of the worst mistakes ever, is to think that artifacts and symbols make you agile. Okay, artifacts and symbols on the surface. Let me give you some examples. I don't know if this is an international thing, but here in Germany, a lot of people associate a modern company culture with tabletop soccer. You know what I mean? These or ping pong tables. So we have ping pong tables and tabletop soccer games in our company, and people are there and playing these games, and we're so cool. And people and employees have beards, and they are coming with sneakers to the company. Yeah, and we have painted some of the walls in crazy colors, and we have a veggie meal at the cafeteria, and now we are agile. Okay, so don't confuse a Generation Y lifestyle or a hipster lifestyle or holacracy or this whole new work trend with agile. They can go hand in hand. I'm not saying that they are contradictive, but it's not the same. You're not agile only because you have painted some walls in a different color and people are coming in sneakers to work. This is not agile. I always say to provoke people a little bit, agility is far too important to leave it to the hipsters. Okay. Again, I'm not saying that these things are contradictive, but it's not the same. Only because you have a couple of cool people that are dressing in a very modern way, and you have a very cool environment with different toys and balls and in certain creativity rooms. You're not agile. Okay, so these would be some of the points that I think that are misguiding and lead to failure in adopting agile.
Thank you so much. Also, one of the things that I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the inability to rapidly adapt to change. So if you're making changes, obviously, to go towards this agile culture, and then people don't want to adapt to the change, I think, or like the leadership, like you just mentioned, I think that's one of the reasons why it also fails.
I totally agree. Yeah. So you need to create an environment in which people feel safe. And for that reason, they are open to follow you and to adopt change. Okay. But I think we should never forget that almost all human beings perceive change as a threat. Let's be honest. Almost nobody thinks that change is something great. Okay, there's a very well-known author in Germany writing about change, and he once said, the only individual in this world who really wants change is a baby in his wet diapers. That's the only. That's the only one who really wants change. Okay, anyone else resists change. So I think we should never forget the human side of change, and you need to find a way to take people with you. You should never lose people in a change process, and sometimes that requires a lot of time.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, Microsoft took 7 years. Yeah. So you cannot expect to adopt an agile culture in a quarter or make it like 3 months type of project.
Exactly.
Awesome. So does agility fail because of technical methodology or cultural reasons?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that question is already answered a little bit by the answers that I gave you previously. Of course, I would say it's a cultural thing. Okay, I mean, many clients ask me as a first question when we're talking about Agile, which software should we use, or which tool should we use? Okay, I think agility almost never fails because of a lack of methodology or framework knowledge. It does not fail because of the wrong software. It usually fails because of cultural reasons. So I think it's really the most important thing is culture. Okay, I mean, we should be aware of the fact that at CertiProf, we of course we teach a lot of framework knowledge and we teach methodology knowledge, and that's the basis. That's usually the point from where you start becoming familiar with Agile, but it's not the end point. It's just the start. So culture is the most important thing, I would say.
Thank you so much. So what are success factors for the use of agility?
Well, I also would like to connect to my previous answer. I think a success factor is to start with agile change as high in the hierarchy as possible. So if there is any possibility to talk to the president of a company, to the CEO, to board members, or to top level management, this is the best way how to start agility. Yeah, I mean, you can start agility also on a personal level, on a team level, but of course, the most effective way is if top leaders are embracing agile.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So if my company is adopting an agile culture, how can I, as a team member, help the company? If, let's say, I'm seeing it comes from leadership, but how can I put some of my part to make sure that the adoption of agility culture is being made the right way?
Yeah, I would say being open to new ideas. Question yourself. If you're rejecting ideas, ask yourself, why are you rejecting these ideas? Are you doing that because of you fear losing your job or you losing your role, or because you're so used to what you're doing and you just want to keep on doing what you always have done? I think questioning yourself, why are you resisting, makes it sometimes much easier, because you might discover certain behavioral patterns in yourself that are not so healthy. So self-reflection can be sometimes a very good way to boost change towards agility.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So lastly, what is the number one advice you can provide to lifelong learners who want to adopt an agile mindset?
Okay. Well, most people start their agile journey. Let's call it like that. Okay, it's an agile journey. They started with obtaining certain knowledge and methodology, or in the case of Scrum, you would say framework knowledge, and they get certified in some agile framework or methodology. Okay, and I think this is a very good start. But the problem here is that a lot of people, after having done a Scrum course, after having obtained a Scrum certificate, think, oh, now I'm agile. No, this was just start. This wasn't the end. Okay. So when you get to that point that you have acquired a certain knowledge on agile and that you obtained some certifications, I think your journey just started. Okay. And you should ask yourself questions of how can we create a corporate culture that really promotes agile, or how should we promote people and how should we hire people in an agile context, or why does agility fail? Why is there resistance to change? Why do certain agile events, for example, don't work? I mean, all the time I see daily stand-up meetings or daily scrums that are completely dysfunctional, and everybody goes away and thinks, oh my God, these 15 minutes have been a complete waste of time. I didn't get anything out of this meeting. So doing like a robotic scrum, just doing it by the guide, and it feels weird. And you're just keep on doing it because the Scrum guide says you need to do a daily Scrum, but you never question yourself, what's wrong here? Why doesn't it work? So I think these are the main questions. If something feels wrong and doesn't produce good results, you should question it and not keep on doing it because the guide says it. Okay. So I find it a little bit funny that we are repeating exactly the same mistakes that we have been committing in the 90s and the early 2000s. I mean, you remember probably these times were the big times of PMI, project management, and everybody wanted to become a PMP, and a lot of companies funded huge programs for their employees to get certified as a PMP and acquire formal project management knowledge, or do master programs in project management and all that. Okay, and many of these initiatives completely failed. And people were afterwards. I heard a lot of company leaders telling me, "Oh, PMI methodology is really bad. It doesn't work." No, it's not necessarily bad. You just had a completely wrong approach. You thought by training formally and certifying people, you will get a cultural change in the company, and that is really required. And you will put more focus on project management, empower project managers, and so on. But they didn't do that. They were just certifying them instead of funding them and culturally supporting them and empowering them. Okay, and I think something similar is happening today again. We're very, very much focused on education, and we are forgetting that after the initial education that undoubtedly is important, there needs to follow a second phase in which we change culture, in which we change our behavior. Okay.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I feel is like people just use for example, the Spotify model, the Scrum guide, and they're just like, okay, I'm just going to follow this because apparently this is working for Spotify. This is working for, I'm going to follow the guide, but they don't sit and think, okay, how can I actually use this information for my unique company? Because we are unique. We shouldn't be follow everything that the competition is doing or what other companies are doing, because they're basing it on their needs, on who they are. So we have to take this information and try to adapt it to our company and our employees, and how that can actually help us because we are unique. I think that also has to do with some of the why it also fails.
Yeah, Gina, I think you mentioned a very important word, which is unique. Yeah, each company is unique and needs to find its own way towards agility. And there is no master plan that you can just follow. You need to find your own path.
Yeah, awesome. Dr. York, as always, thank you so much for sharing your experience with our lifelong learners.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a great pleasure to be with you.
Of course, where can we find you if we want to know more about you?
Oh, you can go to my website, which is www.egeria-consulting.com. So that's probably the best way how to get in touch with me. On that website, also, you find a couple of resources that you can download for Agile project management, some posters, also some sample exams, mock exams, so that you have to become more successful in taking the real exam. So it would be great if you could visit me on my website. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. York, and I'll see you soon, I'm sure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We thank those who choose to be here, and we hope this space has been an inspiration to promote the professional growth of our community. If you want to know more about our certifications, visit us at CertiProf.com. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as CertiProf. Let us know in the comments below what other topics you would like us to discuss. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to know about our upcoming episodes. See you in the next episode.